In the guest chair is Bob Socci. Great to see you, friend.
It is great to be here. I don't know how I can follow that last segment. It instantly tells me where I stand in the pecking order of Zolak and Bertrand guests.
It's a Marconi segment. It's good Marconi segment.
Yeah.
Award-winning.
Absolutely, always.
Good to see you, partner.
Good to see you again.
Hey, you're 13 and coming up, right?
You're 14.
14. How do I always mess that up every camp?
Season 14.
Season 14.
Yeah.
Which means you guys are getting old.
We're getting old. Boy, we were lucky to. I was thinking about that. I saw you earlier. Like, we were lucky enough to start during the sweet spot of, the Brady Belichick era and sort of just get right into Super Bowls. And, boy, these last 2 years have been nothing to really write about or think about.
Hey, Bob, imagine if the Pats had kept Brady.
Yes, I have, Beetle. I have imagined that.
Man.
More than once.
But to talk about where this goes from here, I was mentioning to Zoe earlier today, there is a feeling here. I don't know how to quantify it, but there's a feeling here and in this building and with this team this year that maybe finally there's some light at the end of the dark tunnel that has been the last 2 seasons, that things are, in fact, heading in a positive direction with this team. And we're going to see a lot better football this year, even if it's not a Super Bowl contender or a team that is definitely in the playoffs. But you're going to see a football team that has it together.
Yeah, I would agree. And it tells you how good we've had it when you say the dark tunnel of the last 2 seasons.
Yes. When
there are franchises that their entire history has been a dark tunnel. But I think absolutely, and it's the thing that stood out to me in the spring, coming here for OTAs, just the vibe of watching the team and the coaching staff, the feeling of competence and confidence that you got in things that you heard and the way that fans reacted to the draft, to the free agency period, and it's continued into this training camp. Only 3 days in, they're going to have rough spots ahead. There will be certainly days when they don't look good, or Drake May throws interceptions, or there are off-the-field issues. There always are. It's the NFL. But I can't imagine like a start for this organization where it has been these last couple of years that realistically could be better than the one they've enjoyed now since Mike Vrabel's hiring, the reaction to that, free agency, the draft, kind of the way people who covered the spring practices, the OTAs and minicamp felt about the team, and now what we've seen out here. And really the last couple of days, today being an exception with a smaller crowd, but I thought 2 days ago for day one, 5,000 plus. Now that was an indication of fans being excited about what they've heard about and read about with this team.
Yeah, it's sort of that buy-in too. And we felt it coming undone at the end of last year. I remember I still tell the story, you and I sitting there trying to look at the roster and like, can you even come up with 53 guys that are NFL-type players? And we had a tough time getting into the 40s as you would go through it. But it feels like they've sort of replenished some things here, even though there are a lot of new faces. There's a lot of guys that I don't know that I'm looking forward to get to know as we get ready to call some games here coming up.
Well, so think about it. There were starting lineups that didn't have 22 NFL caliber players, guys that last year saw significant playing time. I think, when you look at some of the offensive linemen, that right now they're not even in the picture of making this team. And I'm thinking of Layden Robinson, for example, a rookie last year. When you think about the draft class last year, high picks, not number 1 pick, of course, but second rounder pick, third round pick, fourth round pick. Those are guys that in the past you would count on by year 2 to be real contributors. And I think of 3 guys in those categories on this team, they're going to have a tough time making this roster, just based on the players they've brought in, and also I think the expectations here now.
Yeah, that pick number 37, it just stands out with Jalen Polk. And, you look at the guys that went after him, the Lad McConkeys you could have had. The corner that started for the Eagles ends up almost being a Super Bowl MVP type kid. This misses, the misses in the draft to where, Bill didn't draft well towards the end of his career.
Right.
Here.
Right.
Or his tenure here, not career, but then that's the spot we're in right now. But it feels like we're getting back a little bit.
Well, it seems to me, too, there's continuity in the way Mike Vrabel thinks, in the way some of the people who are now in the front office think, when you look at maybe some of the people that he's brought in with him and on the coaching staff. And I just see it, too, in terms of the efficiency of practice drills. There are a lot of coaches on this staff that weren't with Mike Vrabel in the past, but there are enough of them. Like, they hit the ground running, it seems to me, and there's a sense that they know what they want to accomplish every day. And I think you hear that from the players, too.
Yeah, they're not figuring it out.
No.
Right? There's no trial and error going on. They know what they're going to do here. And I know that that's kind of an overplayed and we're focusing on it simply because, well, last year was a mess. But it counts, man. It counts for something. If you want to maximize what talent they do have, that needs to be the thing that goes on.
And I think also it goes even past last year, rewinding to the previous couple of seasons, the lack of continuity on the coaching staff for Bill, the changes offensively, the ill-advised, the ill-conceived idea that you could have Matt Patricia, Joe Judge run the offense. So I don't want to make it all about last year and Gerard Mayo and his coaching staff. I think over the last few years we've seen, a staff that was less with it in that respect than I think most of the years we covered Bill's teams as well.
Not to mention, I know that this sounds ageist, but having a coach that's young and feeling rejuvenated with another chance to be a head coach in this league, and being a guy that's still young enough to strap on that pad on his chest and be out there on day one of camp hitting guys, I'm sorry, but that level of energy from your head coach is far different from what you had with Bill at the end.
Well, I think there's also that right mix too, where Vrabel has players stand up in meetings and talk about themselves, and the level of personal interaction that, according to players, exists between him and them and their families. So there is part of that, but that Mike Vrabel is also going to be a hard coach and a demanding coach to play for. And if you don't meet the daily expectations of him and his staff, which we presume, based on what we've seen and said, are going to be in line, then you're not going to be around here for long. And I think they've already indicated that.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the exciting thing moving forward, too, that, he's not just going to play guys to play guys. I think, he's going to have his guys. I'm anxious to see what they're going to do defensively. I think the secondary, and we had Marcus Jones on today, say he's going to be predominantly a nickel guy, and this offense coordinator knows that he can play some offensive plays. That was said.
Josh definitely knows who he is.
They're going to be manning up. They got some hitters in the secondary. I think the defense is going to be fun to watch this year. They're going to get after people.
I do too, and I think we saw Marcus, although he played it down in his session with us on the field in terms of possibly playing offense. He's been working out in some of the individual drills, at least on day one, where there's that sign. Obviously, what he said to you guys today, but I think the defense, the level of violence they say, the way they want to play, I think it's also reflected by what guys they kept around here. Jabril Peppers. I know that he's a guy that they had signed a deal, but just the way he plays, the physicality he brings. Duggar, his mentality back there at safety, it's going to blend well with what they've done up front with that front seven. When you think about the way Spillane is reputed to play and the way they want to get after it up front with a different style, going more vertical on the defensive line than in the past, the two-gap style.
They had his swagger down in Tennessee, and we got our ass kicked defensively by those teams. That trip down there where Brady hurt the knee, and
2018
up here obviously in the playoffs, they got after our ass pretty good. That was a violent defense he had. If he could bring that type of defense here, it's going to give them a chance.
So very first play of that game in 2018 in Nashville, I think there was a pass to James White, and Kenny Vaccaro laid him out in the backfield. It might have been the first or second. The tone was set right then, and I think that's the way this team wants to play.
You got anything McComb for him?
What player stuck out to you so far? Number one player.
Well, the quarterback has looked comfortable and confident. He's the number one guy.
Yeah.
I think he's definitely been the most eye-catching to me. I think the Stephon Diggs. Everybody's talked about how good he looks and how remarkable it is for him to be coming off torn ACL surgery, halfway through last season. How good he's moved around. What's most interesting to me is the idea of some of these young guys like Jared Wilson, who we didn't see in the spring, but drafted in the third round. This is a guy who I think is in competition, like a lot of other people do, for a starting job at guard or perhaps center, even though they've made a short-term commitment to Garrett Bradbury, a guy with experience as a highly drafted player in Minnesota. That's the difference. There's a guy, third-round pick. As I mentioned, in comparison to last year, you got a guy who was an offensive lineman drafted in the third round to be a tackle, who's now going to try to make this team, it appears, as an interior guy. And so he's got his work cut out for him. It just underscores the difference between one draft class and the other and where these guys are headed.
Is offensive line still the biggest question on this team heading into the year?
I think
the same
so.
way it's been
Absolutely.
for several years.
I think so, yeah. Yeah, we'll find out more, obviously, next week when they put the pads on. But I don't know how you cannot consider it to be the biggest question. I think that's assuming Diggs is healthy at wide receiver. That's assuming that Kendrick Bourne can approximate what he did for Josh McDaniels a couple of years ago, that DeMario Douglas continues to get this offense the way he has. I had some questions about that going back to the spring after the last couple of seasons, but it looks like not only is this offense made for him, but it looks like he's made for it too.
The spacing's going to be interesting here. That's why I keep bringing pop-up as like something to watch here, whether it's going to be a good year or a bad year, because if you can't understand the spacing, like if you look at past years where Edelman Welker knew the spots to get to, read zone versus man coverage, that's going to be a big thing for him. And if he could do that, he could be a big player in this offense because he has speed.
Yeah, I'm going to introduce one other position group that probably doesn't get a lot of airtime. It never does. But you look back the last couple of seasons, the inconsistencies
I know where he's going.
of the kicking game. You guys don't want to hear it?
Not the show for it.
No.
Bart
asked me about it.
I definitely know the next show is not the show to talk about it.
I want kickers out of the sport. I want to eliminate them. I'm all done.
But what do you see out of the young kid?
Well, I'm just saying, look, how many games over the last couple of years could have gone in a completely different race? The story of the NFL, the games are so much closer now. How many games hinge on a made or missed?
Right. I wish they had missed that kick in Denver a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you weren't on that flight, so
yeah.
you got to put your kids to bed. You got to put his kids to bed,
right? But I think it really bears watching. The assumption is you draft a kid, he's going to be the guy. We've also drafted a long snapper, and it's an entire operation. And I'm not shilling for the Navy guy, but you knew what you had, a long guy in that position, and it is an operation. I think it's. We'll see how it plays out.
Do you see any hiccups in it yet?
Well, we saw yesterday, a missed, granted, a bit of a tricky win, but we'll find out more, again, as they put more pressure on them in practice situations. But even if a guy makes them in preseason, you don't really know until you get into the real pressure of a regular season. But that's a big turnover, 2 out of those 3 specialists, and that has been an area, whether you want to talk about it or not, that has adversely affected the outcome of games for this team in a considerable way. When you look at all the games decided by a single score or less. I go back to the Giants game, for example, a couple years ago, the game they lost to DeVito.
Right.
Chad Ryland makes a kick early in that game, even later. It's a different game.
Right. And the Patriots are a team that will be playing on the margins.
That's absolutely right.
And
absolutely.
so that, for them, will be important. As much as I don't like kickers, that will be important.
So you're spending a week in Minnesota, you're going out there.
Like kickers, you got a Revolution cap.
Well,
right?
yeah,
It's
but
a very nice cap.
that's their sport. And that's what people go there to see. They buy a ticket to go there and see kicks.
Like
all
kicks.
kinds of kicks. All over the place. That's the sport. This sport, no one's buying a ticket to come see a kick.
Would we be here right now in this stadium, everything ongoing, new facility, if not for a kicker in 2002?
I was into kicking back then. I'm not anymore. I'm over it. It is. I grew up.
It's funny you bring that up.
I became an adult, and I realized this isn't really necessary. We could do without this.
It's funny you bring that up. I was holding for him, and there was a hell of a competition going on between him and who the hell was the other kicker?
Dawson. Phil Dawson.
Yeah. And I didn't think anything of it, thinking Adam was going to be the greatest kicker in NFL history, or this Phil Dawson guy could go on elsewhere and have a 16-year career. But, we had 2 pretty damn freaking good kickers.
You thought Vinatieri was just a guy who didn't know what FUBU clothing meant.
He used to wear FUBU clothing. He had no clue what it stood for. But and he was like, and
he liked it.
But he looked
you like what you like.
He was a different cat. It was either him or Matt Barr. Matt Barr read a book on an upside-down gallon bucket over there. It's just he was a weird dude.
Single bar face
Kickers
mask.
are weird guys. I said, Barr, if I'm going to hold for you, I'm going to either punch you in the face with that single bar face mask.
You made him get rid of it.
You're going to change it. Get a quarterback face mask. And he did.
So he's going to punch him in the face.
I can't look at you. I can't look at you and take you seriously. I can't. You're asking for it. You're asking, hit me here.
I remember quarterbacks he used to wear.
Joe Theismann.
Yeah,
that's
crazy. Absolutely insane.
Yep. Dumb.
Len Dawson. A single bar and a smoke at halftime.
And a beer.
All right. Crack.
Bob, good stuff, man.
Yeah, guys, great to see you.
All right, Bob, we'll see you again soon.
See you next
Bob
week.
Socci, voice of the Patriots, with us here at Patriots Training Camp.